Hey, welcome back to the Too Fast channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a engine tune for a 2008 Volkswagen Eos VR6. Now, actually, I had this tune done a while ago, but since I took it to a local shop, I paid them the money, and they did the tune. There wasn't really a lot for me to make a video about. So, fast forward a few months, I figured, well, I'll talk about what I went through to find a tune for the Eos VR6, and we'll also showcase this emblem here, which I bought off of eBay for about $13. Um, the tuner gave me some stickers, which I didn't want to put on my car. I found this emblem on eBay. This APR emblem here actually says APR Stage 2 Plus. What I have installed on my car is a Stage 1. So what I'm going to do is just install that part. So where my finger's blocking off, that I won't use those pieces. I was going to debadge the EOS, and I figured, well, I'll try this and I'll put this on and see if I like it. If not, I'll just completely debadge the car. So anyway, we'll take a look at the emblem in a little bit. It's still sealed in the package. Now, the Volkswagen EOS VR6, it has the EOS has the same driveline as the 2008 R32. So same motor, same transmission. Main difference is EOS is front-wheel drive only. The R32 is all-wheel drive. Uh, R32's got bigger brakes on it than the EOS. And what else? The EOS weighs a bit more than the R32, but the performance numbers, 0 to 60 and so on, are almost identical. So I figured, well, what's applicable for the R32 will work on the EOS. Well, in parts-wise, bolt-on parts-wise, yeah, probably. But for an ECU tune, not so simple. The the tuners developed their tune based on the ECU number. So if you use a program like VCDS or one of the other available programs, you can go in and you can actually pull out the actual part number for your ECU. And I had to do that to provide that to the tuners. And as surprisingly as it sounds, some of the major tuners, like United Motorsports, which does tunes for the R32, and a lot of people like those tunes, I sent them my ECU number, and I get a response from them, which was kind of comical, which basically said, "We need your ECU number. Use a program like VCDS to pull it out." I'm like, "I did. That's what I sent you." And they're like, "Yeah, that's not the right part number." And I'm like, okay, so I go back in the VCDS and I take a screen capture of that. I send it to them. I'm like, yeah, that is my ECU number. So it was obvious that United Motorsports had never, ever touched an EOS VR6 ECU. I specifically asked them and several other tuners, can't you use your R32 tune on this ECU, this different ECU? And they were like, no, the tune is specific for each ECU. I don't remember a lot of the details, but something about clusters being different and so on. So I didn't go into depth with these different tuners. So what it came down to was, out of all the tuners that do ECU tunes for the Mark V R32, there was only two that had tunes for the EOS VR6. Now, it was HPA up in Canada and APR. APR had it tuned specifically for my ECU number. So they had EOS VR6 in their shop and developed a tune specifically for that ECU. HPA, they said they had a tune for the 3.2 VR6 for the EOS. The tune would be shipped on some sort of a plug-in plug-in module that I could install. Uh, you know, what that came down to was HPA was like 600 and something dollars. The APR Stage 1 tune, I went ahead and bought that with a 10% off discount that was being currently run. And it was half the price. And you know, when you look at the improvement numbers on a normally aspirated motor, HPA and APR are roughly the same. It's hard to justify paying twice as much to get a handheld tuner to plug it in and do it myself. I just couldn't justify that. Now the APR not only was cheaper, but there's a local tuning shop called Ock Tuning. I'll put the link in the description. They're in Redmond, Washington, not too far from me. And I've dealt with them before. They did my Volkswagen coilover install, and they know Volkswagens and Audis very well. I felt more confident having them do the tune, test the car, make sure everything's okay. Basically, something got screwed up, they're on the hook for it. So the Stage 1 tune for the EOS VR6 normally runs about 300. I ended up getting it for $269.96 from Ock Tuning with the APR discount, and they charged me a half hour labor, which was $67.50. So $337.46. So still substantially cheaper than HPA, but those were my only two options to go with. I'm very happy with the Stage 1 APR tune. Had no issues on it. Throttle response is better. It definitely has more torque and more horsepower. Of course, I haven't dynoed it. This was just my initial impressions from driving it. What we're looking at performance gain with this Stage 1 tune is roughly, let's see, we've got a 10 horsepower gain at about 4,250 RPM and a 15 torque gain at about 5,600 RPM. From what I can gather, they have a little stock versus APR tune dyno graph on their website. I'll try to insert that into the video so you can take a look at it. So going into this, you know, we're not talking large gains, hence why I didn't want to drop $600 for 10 horsepower. $300 for 10 horsepower is still kind of iffy for the mediocre torque and horsepower gains, but it was a lot more digestible than $600, for example. So that combined with the air intake mods that I've done, the mass airflow sensor to throttle body coupler that I installed from ECS tuning, and of course the custom exhaust. I mean, all of these modifications add a little bit of power at the end of the day. All right, so that's what I did, and that's why I didn't really make a video before, because it would just be me talking about it, nothing really to show. But today we're going to install this APR emblem. So it gave me an opportunity to talk about the tune and the emblem. So I didn't see this on APR's website, so I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe it's discontinued or what have you, but I got this off of eBay. You can buy these where they're Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 2 Plus, Stage 3, that would be another silver bar, and Stage 3 Plus, 3 silver bars, and the red plus bar. This happens to be the cheapest one that I found, which was a 2 Plus. And again, like I mentioned, I'm only going to use one of the silver bars. So that worked out for me for $13. And again, if this doesn't look good on the car, I'm debadging it. I was going to debadge it anyway. So we'll see. I'm kind of hesitant about removing the 3.2 liter emblem because that's what really signifies that my EOS is different from all the other ones on the road. Um, so here's the emblem, and there's a protective sticker over the top. There we go. So it looks pretty good, and these will just peel off and stick on. Yeah, so that's the emblem there for $13 ship. Now, obviously, this logo doesn't match the EOS logo that's on the car, but we'll put it on there and we'll see what it looks like. So let me go ahead and transition over to uh, the back of the car, and we'll get to installing this. In the meantime, I'll overlay the Stage 1 APR dyno chart so you can take a look at that. Okay, so this is the EOS emblem that's on the trunk lid. Three separate letters held on with two-sided tape. So I'm going to detail removing those. On the other side, you see we've got the 3.2 emblem. A little hesitant on removing that. I'd rather remove the EOS emblem than the 3.2 emblem personally. I think the APR emblem would look better on the left side of the trunk, but we'll have to see. We're going to try it. Um, if not, I can always put the EOS letters back on, or take off both of them. Hard to say. Most of the cars I have, I always debadge them for the most part. I would leave the Volkswagen emblem, of course, but I'd remove those other emblems just to clean up the lines of the trunk. I've done that on pretty much all of my cars, but if you have a special car like the Eos VR6, you kind of want people to know it's a VR6. Same with like the AMG cars that I've owned. I've never removed an AMG logo off of an AMG car. It's just really signifies that it's something special. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get to it, and I'll try to detail this process a little bit so you can kind of see how to remove the emblem. All right, to undertake removing an emblem such as this, we're going to need several things. We're going to either need some fishing line or some dental floss. Now, the dental floss is a little bit more difficult to work with because it's not as strong, so you end up breaking a lot of it, but it will get the job done. This is just, Oral-B, Glide, dental floss, any type of dental floss will work. Fishing line, definitely better. We're also, in this particular case, since I'm going to be replacing this emblem with another emblem, I'm going to use some blue painter's tape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this edge of where the emblem starts and the bottom. And I'm going to use that as a guide for installing these new letters because I want them placed on the same plane as the 3.2 emblem on the other side and the same distance from the edge of the trunk lid. So if you were just removing the emblems, just debadging your car, you wouldn't need to do the tape. We're also going to use a heat gun. The heat gun is used to soften up the two-sided tape that's on the back of these letters. Important, especially if you're doing this on an older car. A newer car, the two-sided tape will be easier to manipulate with minimal or no heat. But on older cars, that two-sided tape it's difficult to remove. So getting a little heat on it softens it up so you can cut through it with the dental floss easier and get it off. In a pinch, you can use a hairdryer. A heat gun, you definitely want to be careful. Heat guns generate a lot of heat. You don't hold heat in one area like this. You move it constantly back and forth and apply the heat evenly. You don't want to melt or burn anything. Heat guns can do that if you're not careful. So if you're not real confident with the process, use a hairdryer. So hair dryers put out a lot less heat. It's a bit more forgiving. Anyway, that's what we need to do this. And I'm going to get the masking tape on here and we'll get started. All right, I've got the masking tape on there, and I brought this out far so I could get all my letters aligned. I don't know about the spacing in between the letters. I'm just going to eyeball that. Since this emblem's a lot longer, I'm probably going to put the lettering a little bit closer together than how these are spaced, because I don't want it coming way out here. I want to keep it as compact as possible. But anyway, so with the heat gun, we're going to put it on low, and we're just going to do this to it's also nice. It's also a nice option if you can do this when it's warm outside, because everything will already be warm. Trying to do this when it's sub-zero temperatures makes it even more difficult. I've got about 70 degrees outside right now, so it's nice and comfortable. I'm using the low setting on this particular heat gun. Making sure I don't get everything too hot. That should be sufficient. I haven't actually used this particular type of dental floss, but that's all that I had handy. I had no fishing line handy. We'll see how this goes. And what basically I'm going to do is slide this under the emblem. And I'm pulling towards the emblem because I want to cut the emblem off from the adhesive. I don't want to, preferably, I don't want to run this against the paint. This is holding up pretty good. And there we go. So we've got some residual tape left over, which we can remove probably with some isopropyl alcohol or some rubbing compound. I wouldn't recommend anything too harsh because you are putting chemicals on your paint. So we'll find out how well the isopropyl alcohol will work, and we can go to some rubbing compound if necessary. Now, if you're doing this on an older car, what you may end up finding out is once you remove the emblem and remove the residual two-sided tape, you may discover that the paint on the car has faded, and the paint where the adhesive was is actually darker. That is kind of common on older cars. So what you end up having to do is go in with some polishing compound and see if you can polish it out. It may not be 100% fixable, but something to keep in mind. Newer cars that are not that old, most likely wouldn't have that issue. I don't know what to expect when I get the adhesive off, but this is a 2008. It has not spent a lot of time in the sun, so I'm trying to keep my finger on the emblem because I don't want to slice it off and have it go flying. There we go. What I'm also trying to do is I'm trying not to pull on the emblem. I don't want to, I mean, these are plastic emblems with chrome. I don't want to crack them. And so being extra careful. So this is going fairly easy. And we're on to the last one. Broke the dental floss on that one. And there we go. So easy peasy. All right, next step is to get the rest of that adhesive off. All right, so I've got some isopropyl alcohol, which is what I'm going to try first. I mean, there are other options. Um, some people like to use Goof Off. I don't. Goof Off is a chemical, an adhesive remover that is very strong, and I've actually used it to remove paint, overspray, things like that. So that's how powerful it is. It's not something I really want to try. So what I'm going to do is get some more heat, and I'm going to use my finger and see how much I can get off with my finger first, and then I'll go back and try some isopropyl alcohol. well, the finger's not working out too well. Try a microfiber towel and some isopropyl alcohol. There is some foam, residual foam left on the adhesive, so I'm trying to get the foam soaked in the alcohol. And it is loosening it up slowly. Now you can see that it is coming off. This is going to take me a while, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and so you don't have to sit through this painful process, and we'll be back shortly. Okay, about 10-15 minutes later, the isopropyl alcohol worked fine. Took the adhesive off, loosened it up so I could remove it. In this particular case where I've got tape down here, the alcohol also wants to remove the tape, so you got to be careful with that. Normally that's not an issue if you're just removing emblems. You don't need the tape. There is a slight outline of the 3 letters left on the paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break out some polishing compound. I happen to like the Meguiar's Ultimate Compound. I believe I discovered this by watching YouTube videos of different tests of different store-bought polishing compounds, and this was always a top contender. And so I went ahead and picked up a bottle, and I've been quite happy with it. So get another microfiber towel. I'm going to do this by hand. If you had a machine, you could do it by machine. I do have a machine, but I don't want to remove the tape, and I don't want to try and use a machine and polish over the tape, because those are my guidelines for installing the new emblem. So I'm going to see if I can get this polished out by hand. A little bit too much there, but if I can get this polished out, I'll go back over it with some rubbing alcohol. I don't want any wax or anything that might cause a problem with the adhesive. You could also go over it with some wax and grease remover, but I think the isopropyl alcohol will work just fine. Hopefully you get it all out. And since I will be putting emblems over it, it won't actually be that noticeable. I want it to look as perfect as possible. I've got most of it. Still a slight outline of those emblems. Excuse me if my fat head gets in the way. Camera's off to the side. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not going to be noticeable once I put new emblems over it. So if I was just going to remove these emblems and not put something else on here, and this tape wasn't here, I would just take out an orbital and I would hit it with the orbital. And if this Meguiar's wasn't sufficient, I could default over to some more aggressive polishing compounds, which I have made by Griot's, along with their buffer. And I would spend the time getting it absolutely perfect with an orbital and the Griot's multi-stage polishing compounds. It's almost completely gone. I'm going to go over it a few more times and we'll be back. All right, that took about 20 minutes to get that small little shadow polished out so you can't see it anymore. So after I finished that, I went ahead and wiped it down with isopropyl alcohol. Make sure I have a good surface for the emblem to stick to. Let's see, I believe it's time to reposition the camera so I can work from this area over and we'll get to it. I'm going to heat the surface up a little bit with the heat gun and then heat the emblem up a little bit to get that tape to be more sticky, so we'll get better adhesion. Okay, got a little bit of heat here, got a little bit of heat on the emblem. I'm going to peel off the A, get a little heat directly on the two-sided tape. Now this particular script is italic, so it kind of slants to the right, but I'm going to use my reference tape to get this placed right like so. All right, there's the first letter. I know 3M recommends you press and hold the surface for a certain period of time and then let it set up. I don't remember if it was 12 hours or 24 hours, but that depends upon the type of tape that's used. I don't know what's used on this, if it's 3M or not. All right, now the spacing, that's going to be kind of arbitrary. I'm going to shoot for about a 1/4 inch by eye. Believe we're good. Okay. I could break out a tape measure and measure everything, but frankly, if it looks good to my eye, that's all that really matters. Okay. I have to apologize again if my head gets in the way of the camera because it's right next to me. All right. Last item. APR Stage 1. That looks good. So ideally, just looking at this, I would think it would look better if it was lower, but the whole purpose of the tape was to make sure that it's on the same horizontal plane as the 3.2 emblem. If I move this down, I'd have to remove the 3.2 and move it down. So we're just going to go with that and see if I'm okay with it or if it bugs me. If it bugs me, I'll just take it off and debadge the entire trunk. So I'm going to go ahead and polish this up a little bit, and we'll be back to take a final look at it. Okay, I did a little tweaking on the alignment and a little bit of polishing, and I think I'm done. So that's what it looks like, roughly on the same plane as the 3.2 emblem on the right. So let me know what you guys think. Drop me a comment and let me know if you like it or if you think I should just debadge the trunk completely, because I'm kind of on the fence on that, on whether or not I should completely debadge it or leave it just as it is right now. So anyway, I hope you found the information useful in case you have a VR6 EOS and you decide to modify it or tune it. And if you plan on removing any of your emblems on your car, hopefully this will help you as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.